Next up, we have Botaniline. Botaniline is from Buffalo, New York, mentored by Ed Bizzari. Botaniline creates ground proteins that are lower in salt, saturated fat, and calories by utilizing plant-based ingredients to replace some of the meat, producing flavorful, more sustainable meat products. Mark Selmer will be presenting for Botaniline. Please welcome Mark to the stage. Let's go. Welcome aboard, Mark. And here's your clicker.
Wonderful. Good morning. I'm just glad I'm not separating you from lunch. My name is Mark Selmer. I'm co-founder and CEO of Botaniline. We are an innovative food science company that is revolutionizing many of the foods we love to eat. In this presentation, you will learn that we have not one, but 4 breakthrough food sciences, all cumulative, all of which are 100% plant-based scientific advances, highly protected with intellectual property, starting first with how we restructure the chemistry of a potato that we call OBB. As you know, this country is experiencing an intensifying and extremely expensive healthcare crisis. In fact, it's interesting that many other developed countries are far ahead of the United States in regulating manufacturers to do better, to create healthier foods. Why? Because junk food has earned its reputation. We know that foods high in sodium, saturated fats, calories, artificial ingredients, fillers, allergens, chemical additives aren't good for us. In fact, the American Heart Association and the American Academy of Pediatrics has linked unhealthy diets directly to these chronic diseases. Also, these proteins are not good for the planet. We know that. The statistics are very troubling, but despite this, meat, poultry, and seafood are not going away. They're going to be with us for this foreseeable future. We also know that flexitarians, reducitarians, and vegetarians and others rightfully want us to reduce the amount of animal protein raised, harvested, consumed, and simultaneously have an impact on our carbon footprint. When we looked at this crisis, we know that the status quo is not acceptable. It has unintended consequences. So we asked ourselves, can we do substantially better? Can we disrupt the status quo? As it turns out, we can, and we do. We are Botaniline, and we are on a pathway to save our children, our seniors, everyone else in between, all while helping the planet. The first of our incredible solutions that make the ground proteins healthier is branded as OBB, after my friend, co-founder, and principal scientist, Dean O'Brien. Dean has perfected a way to adjust the chemistry of potato by using an algorithm of water, temperature, and time at those temperatures. In the Q&A, I can further explain how the chemistry works, but we can substitute 10 to 20% of the meat block of the protein with the OBB formulation, which has an equal impact on reducing the amount of meat protein used and impact lowering greenhouse gases. As you can see from this slide, we're not talking about minimal changes or inconsequential changes. We can lower sodium in the foods we love by up to 95%, calories, saturated fat by up to 50%, and we can reduce as much as 100% of processed chemicals. We do have some indirect competitors. The 3 of us make a chicken sausage. Now that chicken sausage can be a breakfast sausage, it can be kielbasa, it can be Italian sausage. But if you were going to make a decision between these 3 companies based on label, you would see that Johnsonville has 15 items, some of which you can either pronounce or understand what their function is, unless you're a chemist. And Impossible has 20. Ours has 5, all completely understandable by the consumer. But the situation is, if you were going to judge on the label, you would go with Botaniline. If you were going to judge on the nutritional outputs, again, there's no contest. We are half the calories of Impossible. We are off the charts low on saturated fat. We're about half of the sodium, and we have a boosted protein content with 15 grams. We know that the establishment manufacturers have been tone deaf to their customers' wants and needs. So we looked at all of the institutional food service, large providers of meals. And we focused on the two that we feel have the most pain, that are struggling to the highest degree. And we are focusing first and foremost on K through 12 schools and seniors. Healthcare, long-term care, assisted living, and Meals on Wheels. Why? Because of all of the consumers under that prior slide, these two, K through 12 and hospitals, are under the most stringent USDA regulations for CN, child nutrition, or CACFP regulations, Child Adult Care Food Program. Recently, we had an opportunity to showcase our products at the annual conference in New York, Verona actually, of the State Nutrition Association. We met with many of the 300 dietitians and food service directors. They shared their struggles with us in finding flavorful foods that meet strict USDA guidelines. They were surprised that our products not only meet their sodium and protein and other targets, but they taste great. And you'll have an opportunity at your lunch because we've got samples there for you. They were surprised that we meet and exceed not only their current regulatory requirements, but the new stringent requirements that are taking effect in 2023, we surpass them. We are already ahead of what the USDA will be requiring. In addition, food service professionals are asking us to provide more options to help them in their menu planning. So please note, OBB works in meat, poultry, seafood, vegetarian, vegan, including meeting strict halal and kosher processing requirements. And we offer over 30 SKUs or 30 items and recipes currently available. Our IP doesn't stop with the potato. We have 3 new plant-based food innovations in the pipeline. In the next 6 to 12 months, with the benefit of this grant, we intend to work with Cornell Agritech to tweak our amazing peanutless butter, which you'll also sample. It is 100% allergen-free, and it comes in 3 flavors. By comparison, Nutella, and one of the flavors will be chocolate, Nutella has 37% sugar. Ours has, I believe, 2 milligrams. In the very near future, we will also be working with Cornell Agritech to finalize our fermentation discoveries using mycoproteins, both the mycelium, the root bundle, as well as the mushroom itself. We will be working with companies like Leap Foods in Rochester. Our 4th innovation is a new proprietary dry method for fractionation of high protein concentrates using pulse crops, beans and peas. The same pulse crops that we use for the peanutless butter. And we will be growing those pulse crops in this region. Our business model today has 4 supply chain components, very simple, but with this grant and in the next year and the next following year, we anticipate there will be 7 supply chain components. The other 3 will be all manufacturing of the peanutless butter, the OBB potato ingredient, and manufacturing at Burley Brothers in Attica, New York. But right now it's very simple as far as supply chain. We source our raw materials, we sell that to manufacturers, the manufacturers make finished goods, and we sell to the end customer, or they do. For that we get income from the OBB and the spice blends, we get license fees, and we get royalties. So we have 4 ways of making money. In connection with this competition, we were introduced to the amazing assets of the Grow New York region. As an intended consequence, We now have several collaborators already in place, 9 in fact, that are poised to grow and work with Botaniline in supporting this region, and another 15 to 25 committed to working with us, and the list grows every day. In fact, in direct support of the Cornell Cooperative Extension, we surpassed the needs of the Farm to School initiative for providing New York State grown beef into the school cafeterias. Now, there are things we can do with 250,000, of course. There are things we can do with 500,000, but the Holy Grail is $1 million. And the reason I say that is because of our growth projections. Our team needs to be augmented. This is the team that got us here today, but we need so many more levels of talent at all levels, farmers up to scientists. And in conclusion, with this award, we can produce an uncalculated amount of revenue, job growth, career development in what I would call the Grow New York ecosystem and infrastructure. And by that, I'm referring to the agriculture, manufacturing, academic, K through 12, business, R&D, economic and environmental components. With this region as our partner, we can change the world. Welcome to the revolution.